Mortgage rates falling in most areas of America this week. Freddie Mac is out with its weekly survey, and here's a look at the averages. Nationally, the 30-year fixed rate average down to 5.08%, with the Northeast being the only region not showing any improvement. Maybe it's because all the cash in Washington, D.C. Now, with rates at these low levels, is now the time for you to refinance. Joining us is Greg Rand. He is managing partner with Better Homes and Garden Rand Realty. Good to see you again, Greg.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Just an overall question, first of all, in terms of what's happening with this market. We have seen virtually the end of flipping houses right now. Nobody's flipping.
Yeah.
What percent of the housing market over the last decade, when housing was booming, was flipping? Was it like 10%, 20%, 50%?
I don't have exact numbers, but it wasn't. It depends on where you are, obviously. Okay, around here in the Northeast, where it's mostly bread and butter,
about 40,
housing,
50%, wasn't it?
Not the buying and flipping.
Really?
Most of it's still people who are buying to occupy.
Okay.
On the fringes, the places where you had a lot of South Florida, a lot of Southern California, a lot of Las Vegas buying and flipping going, or I should say buying and then not being able to flip and then getting stuck with it. A lot of that has been going on.
Well, that's my point. The fact is that the flipping, which may, if you make an amalgam, it represents, say, 20% of the entire housing market. Okay. That's totally gone. That's totally gone for at least the next couple of years. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, and you know what? I'm glad, to tell you the truth, because the buying and flipping, that's a Wall Street approach to investing that can work on Wall Street. It only works in real estate when you catch just before the steepest part of the peak and then catch it right at the perfect time. The best way to buy real estate is to buy it and hold it. I know it's not sexy and it's a little bit boring, but we're finding people right now are starting to get it back through their heads again that this is not a short-term play, that it's back to acquire something, hold it. The people that make the money in real estate build a portfolio.
But
don't
again,
short-term plays.
The less competition you have, the only good thing about that flipping that was going on, besides some people making a lot of money
from it,
us
in the middle,
it was great for you, and it did add competition, a zest to the system that it doesn't have right now.
That's true. That's true. As we were talking a moment ago, that there's a sense out there among people that that same short-term mentality is still lingering because, for example, the statistics that are being analyzed this year for the first time are comparing second quarter to first quarter. Or they're saying the home prices in July were good compared to June. Now, since when do we compare them July to June? We always compare July to last July. And so what I'm concerned about is that people are getting back to that mentality of having a sense of optimism, which is good. It's good for my business, but it's not good when they think that what is effectively seasonality in the market. Okay, and a comparison of second quarter to first quarter, which is always better. Second quarter is always better than the first quarter. And guess what? Fourth quarter is always worse than third quarter. So I'm worried we're going to be sitting here in January hearing Case-Shiller comes out and the housing market's in a bust again because the numbers came down.
Right. Well, what has been coming down are rates. And again, we keep saying this over and over again. You're never going to have a combination of prices this low with rates this low. That's the perfect combination for a buy. Now, the great thing about housing, there are always new buyers. There are always people that come in that want to buy a house. And right now is not only perfect time for that, but you also have this tax credit, first-time home buyer tax credit. How does that work?
It's working. There are people whose timing is being dictated by making sure they get it done before the end of the tax credit. So what normally would be a slower market, October would be slow for us. October is going to be crazy for us because this thing, you have to get it in closed by the end of November. So that's a good short-term
It's almost like
thing.
A cash for clunker deal. You're going to have a real tremendous release of this demand that's been pent up for so long.
They're going to extend it, though. They have to extend it. I hear the buzz about that, and the sense that I'm getting is that they like the credit they got for cash for clunkers. Warts and all, they like the credit. They like the credit they're getting for the housing recovery is happening because it's a cycle, but the $8,000 tax credit is getting credit for it. And so the government's going to want to see that continue all the way through next year.
By the way, is that one of these credits you have to pay back, or is that a givey?
That's not a givey. That's a tax credit. You have to put the money out, and then you have to put it off your tax return later on.
Is there any call for realtors to have some sort of thing where you have a tax credit that you don't have to give back at all, that you get to apply to your new home?
There is. The Business Roundtable has a housing component that made a recommendation to up it to $15,000, make it across the board for all home buyers.
Are the politicians going to buy that?
If
the housing market goes down, perhaps they will. If it goes down,
maybe they'll read October's numbers as being bad, even though they're not, and they'll.
But the bottom line, you got interest rates at historic lows, housing prices way down off their highs, and this tax credit. That's a perfect triple.
And we can't tell them that. They have to feel that, and they are starting to feel that.
A hat trick. Excuse me for not remembering that. Greg Rand, good to see you. Thank you very much for being here. Well, as the